First of all, we're going to be painting with lacquer paints today, and it doesn't matter if you're painting with lacquer or water base. The first thing I stress is your health, your lung safety, to wear a respirator. For the purposes of the video today, for me talking, I can't wear a respirator. We have a very nice paint booth here that will take care of most of our problems, but I can't stress enough, always wear your respirator, whether it's lacquer or water-based. Just because it's water-based doesn't mean you can't wear a respirator. It's the pigments that you still need to protect yourself from. Another thing, when we're painting any fish at any time, always have good reference on hand. I've done thousands of fish, skin mount, and I still paint with reference. I could probably paint them in my sleep, but I always like to have reference in my paint room while I'm working with them, because every fish can be a little different. When it comes to reference, there's all different sources out there. You can collect your own photos from magazines, this and that, but the research Mannikins do have some already available. They've got these reference mannequins here, or reference albums with rainbow trout, and these are nice close-up photos. I've got a lot of reference of my own, and like I said, I can't stress enough, you want to have reference in your files. Just go through, make sure you collect lots of photos all around all the fish you may encounter at different times. We got our fish. It's pretty much ready to go. There's a few things we need to know before we start on this. We're going to be painting today a skin mount with an artificial head, and we'll be doing a few things here you probably do a little different. Hopefully show you a few things you haven't seen here today to make your mounts look better. Once we've got this cleaned, we're going to seal our fish. Sealer's going to go into anything porous, and that's going to be your fish skin. So I do not seal the artificial heads. If you spray sealer on here, it can come back and give you problems later in the painting session. This is the main cause of fish eyeing on your paint and your gloss if you apply sealer on your artificial head when you don't need to. The head is made of a nice material that I use for casting that accepts paint. It doesn't need to be sealed. It just needs to be wiped down with thinner. So we're going to spray our sealer only onto the skin and the fins of this fish. And the sealer, research has here the super fish sealer. I love this stuff. It's great. Since they came out with these cans of sealer and gloss, I don't even fire up my gloss guns anymore. This stuff is quick and simple. We're going to step into the paint booth here and give our fish a quick coat of sealer. On a fish of this size, one coat should be sufficient. We'll let it stay in here and let the fumes get sucked out, and we'll let this dry for a few minutes. If you see on a lot of our fish here, we've got broken patterns like light, dark, little speckling, almost pepper markings under the gills and the side of our fish, and that's very prominent on your lake trout. And a lot of your brook trout, you'll notice when we do here, the brook trout have a lot of that. And I've got a little technique, simple, which will help you disguise and blend this in. First of all, I take a piece of just regular bath towel. I think it's terry cloth. It's got the large raised little fingers for fibers. I cut them up in like 1-inch squares, and I'll tip it over, kind of make a little ball out of it so the fingers are exposed. Take my little clamp it off, dip it in the Payne's gray, and you can use black, brown, whatever color you like for your species. And if it looks like it's too sopping wet, just dab it off. Then take it and start going all over your head here. And then another way we can do it is, if you'd like to change a little different pattern, is take a brush, some stiff bristles usually, and I dip it in the paint. Make sure that's brushed off, and then I just kind of will jam it hard, get the paint off of here. And that looks like a lot, and then you can take a little piece, wipe it back here a little bit. And what we're doing here is like picking it up in the detail of the head. You want to darken it up. You can go back over it too, like this. Or if we got just the right amount of paint on here, there we go. That's the kind of shadowing effect. I'm going to put this all over the lower jaws and gills here with the pepper markings. And this technique works really good on reproduction fish too. I do this on every fish. It doesn't matter if it's a trout or a bass. I do some type of texturing and shading on the head. When we've done our layers of pearl coats and colors on this, it's really going to make a difference. And a lot of this is going to show through onto our detail for the colors. And that's where it really gives you a nice natural look. Like I said earlier, carry your markings onto the back side. We're going to do both sides of the fish just as standard commercial fish here. It may look kind of bright at this point. Don't worry, it's going to tone down as we put our colors on. But a little tip here, if you look at this pepper marking, if you notice on brook trout, any of your char fish, you have a lot of that all along the belly. This technique works wonderful for putting that little broken pattern all along your fish. I use this when I do my vertical bandings, like on smallmouth bass or largemouth bass. I use the same technique for making in my bandings on the side, maybe just a little darker with this. But the next color we're going to put is a pearl color. We're going to use a white pearl and soften that over, and we're going to soften all the rest of the body here where we've put our silver and our white. And this is white pearl, life tone. And another little thing about paints I want to mention is I like these 3-ounce bottles for my Pache VL5 here, double action. And I like to put marbles in the bottom. So with a quick stir, when I pick them up and go to each color, it picks up the pigments. Okay, we're going to take the white pearl and we're just going to pearl the head. And then we're going to pearl the whole body, except the fins. Everything we put color onto this point, all the base work, we're going to give it a nice pearly effect. And we'll be coming back to that head later in our paint schedule, redoing the white and detailing, and that's when that will really fade in and blend. What we're going to do now is I think we're going to look into start our spotting. And the color I like to use for my spotting is Payne's Gray. It's really not gray, it comes out almost a blue-black. It just tends to be a softer spot. It's not as harsh as your jet black. And this is where you have to make sure you tune your brush. You want to get some nice fine spot. You want to make some small spots like this, just so we can catch them. Keep them small. And another nice thing about if you're going to do both sides of your fish, you can start on this side and check your airbrush if you want to see how the spots are coming out. Start on the fins first. I like to work the fins first here. And as you can see a lot on our fish, the fins are pretty visible through there. The spots are pretty visible through the fins. So we're just going to basically paint over the existing markings. Okay. There we've gone and spotted our dorsal. And like again, you want to carry it around to the back side. Okay, and sometimes we have small spots on our lower fins. We have a few spots on there. What I'm going to do now is look back to the head and look how we've got quite a uniform spot pattern on the head. It does carry down into the maxillary a little bit at random here. And we're going to blend these spots, believe it or not, a little bit later. They're a little harsh. We're going to go back over them with a little bit of our shimmering colors and tone them in again. Usually I stop the spots into the red. They usually don't show too much in the red, but they do a lot of times carry in to the gills. So again, use your paper. Kind of shoot it halfway onto the gill right there. Pull your paper off, and then you've got just a nice little edge effect on your spot. Not quite a full spot, just a nice little edge effect like a natural fish does. Remember, I talked earlier, our spots pretty much went right above the lateral line on this fish, and then with a small banding underneath. So what I like to do first is define that area I'm going to be painting with that band of spots, so I know not to carry past it. And then I'll bring our little banding down underneath here. Okay, we've done our spotting on our fish. We're going to take a look at it here and see we've done our spots way we talked about earlier with the 2 lines of spots here, and gone and put small, large, and mediums. You don't want to put all your spots one size. You want to vary them. Helps break it the look up with the eye looking back at it. Gives it a more natural appearance. And the last thing I'd like to address is the issue of gills. Some people put them in, some people don't. We didn't put them in this particular mount because we didn't have any space. Our heads fit really tight and against the body, so there was really no open gills to this rainbow trout. But if you do a mount where you have some open gills, at this point you've got a lot of choices out there, pretty self-explanatory when it comes to gills. You've got them pre-made. Research Mannikins for larger fish, smaller fish. You can use chenille bumps like here from your craft store. You can cut them to fit, put them in there. There's a lot of different options, and it's just something of personal choice. It's not very technical, and everyone can decide if they want to put them in depending on how much they have showing.